one out of asking dozens of them, one who was actually a Syrian refugee. And she shed light on another important factor, was that the media only shows the children, only shows the women in all these reports about, quote, refugees. She went to the migrant camp there in Calais, one of them after it had been moved, and found basically three or four children throughout the entire camp. And those were the ones that were getting interviewed, that were getting the camera put on them by the mainstream media, while the vast majority were, again, young, fighting age males on their cell phones. The vast majority of them not from Syria, from places like Sudan, from places like Afghanistan. So again, the complete 180 opposite to what you see in the mainstream media. We've been lied to about this migrant crisis from the very beginning, and that continues to be the case. Let me know if we get Lauren back on the line, though. We're having some problems because, of course, she's on the road. She's doing reports, so it's difficult. Have we got Lauren back?
Hello, can you hear me?
Lauren, yeah, I just wanted to get your perception of what you saw at the Calais migrant camp. How many people were, genuine refugees? How many were just economic migrants? Tell us what you saw.
Right, so we haven't released this video yet on the Rebel Media, but we've done a lot of interviews. Well, we did 160, and most of the people I spoke to were leaving for financial reasons. You are not a refugee anymore once you leave a war-torn country. You get to a safe spot, and then you want to leave that to another place. That is, you're shopping for the best place to live. That's not a refugee. A refugee gets out of the war-torn country and is happy to be out of the war-torn country. These people are shopping for the place they're to get the most money, welfare, and they're trying to get to London and Canada. That's what most of them told me. They have plans, and they didn't bring their families. They're all young men that are able to make this journey. They all have, they've all told me that this is for jobs. All of them were in kind of bad-ish situations, but I mean, half the world is in a third world situation right now, right? You can't import the entire third world simply because violence going on, simply because some people have a bad situation. First world countries, quite frankly, could not take that. And these aren't even families; these are young men.
Exactly. I mean, and we just don't see this on the news. A couple of minutes left, though. You also went to Molenbeek. Of course, we were chased out of Molenbeek by the culturally enriched moderate Muslims there. You talk to people on the street. Tell us what you learned about the fine line between so-called moderate Islam and the pro-Sharia crowd in Molenbeek.
Right. This video hasn't come out either yet, but we did have a lot of people tell us, yeah, we want Sharia law in Molenbeek. We want this to be run by Sharia law. And you don't see that in the media. You don't see them showing that these Muslims are not moderate. Sharia law includes killing gays. Sharia law includes cutting women up, cutting people's hands off for stealing. And they would just shrug and say, I don't see a problem with that. Culture, I don't see a problem with that. And, eventually they might already have enough people to sway Molenbeek to make their own laws. And they probably already enforced it themselves through peer intimidation tactics of each other in large groups. When I was there, I actually felt more fear being in Molenbeek than in Calais. Little groups of men coming up saying to us, this is our property. You don't get to do it here. Put your camera away. They told us to just get out of there.
Exactly. I mean, that's what we experienced. I mean, Rob Dew got kicked out of the migrant camps there in Germany, but again, we got physically chased out of Molenbeek. The environment was a lot worse. Lauren, we're going to leave it there now. We're coming up against the break, but thanks for joining us. You can check out Lauren's work at the Rebel Media and Lauren Southern on Twitter. Go watch her debate with the gun grabber on Sky News earlier today. Fantastic rebuttal. She completely rattled and destroyed him because he could only resort to ad hominem. So go and watch that clip. But we'll be back live with the truth about Brexit next on The Alex Jones Show. Don't go away. We are back live on The Alex Jones Show on this Brexit EU referendum day. Going to get more into that in a moment, but I want to tell you about our Deep Cleanse special. Again, another amazing special available at InfoWarsLife.com. This is 20% off Deep Cleanse. We know that a clean, toxin-free body is the foundation of true health. That's why we developed Deep Cleanse, an all-in-one total body cleanser that doesn't cut any corners. This all-natural formula incorporates the chemical and toxic metal cleansing ability of organic zeolites in combination with powerful cleansing herbs. And you can see over 100 five-star reviews, again, all independent third-party reviews on InfoWarsLife.com. Now is the time to stock up and get Deep Cleanse for 20% off at InfoWarsLife.com. So go there, get the products, support the expansion of our media operation. Now, we got a story linked up on the Drudge Report as it relates to Brexit. Proposed EU army hidden from British voters until after Brexit. Well, imagine my shock. As citizens of the United Kingdom prepare to cast their votes in a nationwide referendum to decide whether or not to leave the European Union, a plan detailing the initial framework for the creation of a European Union army are being kept hidden from the public until the day after the vote. Well, what do you know? The global strategy on foreign and security policy, which envisions the formation of new European military and operational structures, was drafted by Federica Mogherini, High Representative of the European Union for Foreign Affairs and Security Policy. And the plan lays the framework for the creation of a European army, which is what the EU was intended to become all along. Remember, when it first started, it was just a free trade zone, just a harmless free trade zone to get rid of those trade tariffs. Now, it's an army. It's a Euro super court. It's deciding 60% of our rules and regulations and laws. It's a federal behemoth. So they're waiting until the day after the vote to announce further integration. Remember, David Cameron went to the EU before all this, before he announced the referendum, to try and get some kind of deal to make it better, to bring back more powers into the United Kingdom. They basically gave him nothing. They did give him a vague promise that there would be no more political or military integration when it comes to the UK and the EU. Of course, they completely lied. We've also got the situation with Turkey, where in just a few days, the EU will again begin those negotiations with Turkey to make Turkey a member of the EU. What does that mean for the UK? Well, they polled people in Turkey and asked them if they would move to the UK if Turkey joined the EU, if they would move there, live there, work there. 12 million plus of them said yes. Now, we're already full. We don't need 12 million more Muslim migrants, thank you very much. We don't need more cultural enrichment. But again, that's something they've delayed until after the EU vote. So they're preparing all these goodies for us. They hid them from the public beforehand because they know that would sway more of the vote towards leave. So they've hidden this, and they're preparing more of these in the next few days and weeks after this vote takes place. But on the subject of Brexit, I put together this YouTube video. I think it's got about 400,000 views by this point. The truth about Brexit, why it matters, why it still matters with 3.5 hours left for you to vote if you're listening. And, you know, even if the vote goes against us, which people expect it to do because people are afraid of changing the status quo, why it matters that we continue the fight for independence, for sovereignty, for the United Kingdom. So here is the truth about Brexit. This is the most important vote you will ever cast in your lifetime. So listen up. They're lying to you about Brexit. All this Chicken Little, the sky is falling. There'll be World War III if Britain leaves the EU. There'll be economic catastrophe. It's all total bollocks. The EU isn't planning to become a federal superstate accountable only to the bureaucrats who profit from it. It already is one. It already has a central bank, a president, a currency, a criminal justice system, a passport, a flag, an anthem. These are all defining characteristics of a nation state. They lecture us all day about nationalism being evil, while trying to build a contrived pan-European nationality. Because it's not about free trade, it's not about peace, it's about obliterating the nation state and replacing it with their own Byzantine United States of Europe and seizing raw power. They lied to us from the start. They claimed it was just going to be a free trade zone. It's already a sprawling empire. And isn't it an amazing coincidence that all the economic, academic, NGO and arts organisations who are fear-mongering about Britain leaving the EU are being bankrolled by the EU. The EU pays organisations to call for the EU to be given more power. The EU then seizes more power, claiming it did so in response to popular demand. These are the same groups you now see all over the news claiming that Brexit will lead to the apocalypse. They're lying to you because they don't want their slush fund to come to an end. There's all this fear-mongering about massive job losses. The only job losses are going to be MEPs falling off the Brussels gravy train, the £3,500 a month general expenses, the business class refunds for budget flights, the €12,000 a month staff budget, the private shopping malls that aren't even open to the peasant public. And these MEPs don't even have to submit receipts. It's all a massive bribe to buy their obedience. EU officials pay a flat tax of just 21%. They're making decisions that have fiscal consequences for ordinary people, while themselves being exempt from those consequences. Power without responsibility, the ultimate form of authoritarianism. You've heard it said that the EU is undemocratic. It's not undemocratic, it's anti-democratic. Look at how the European Union responds when citizens in Europe vote to reject its mandates. In Denmark, Ireland, France, the Netherlands, Greece, the people voted to reject the Maastricht Treaty, to reject the Nice Treaty, to reject the EU Constitution, to reject the Lisbon Treaty, to reject the Euro bailout. And every time the EU either made them vote again to get the result they wanted, or simply ignored the vote altogether. Listen to what Jean-Luc Dehaene, the former Belgian Prime Minister, said about a referendum on the EU Constitution. If the answer is no, the vote will probably have to be done again, because it absolutely has to be a yes. Listen to what Jean-Claude Juncker, the current president of the EU Commission, said about the French referendum on the EU Constitution. If it's a yes, we will say on we go. And if it's a no, we will say we continue. This is the same guy who said, quote, when it becomes serious, we have to lie. These people have nothing but contempt for your democratic rights. Look at the Eurozone bailouts. Under Article 125 of the EU's treaty, the bailouts were completely illegal. Under the EU's own rules, they were illegal. When Papandreou called for a referendum on the Greek bailout, he was turfed out and replaced with a Eurocrat. The same thing happened to Berlusconi when he said that the euro had made Italians poorer. He survived 1 million scandals, but as soon as he defied the EU, he was gone. This is how they treat leaders who, God forbid, value the democratic rights of their own people. Juncker spelled it out when he said, quote, there can be no democratic choice against the European treaties. If the EU were a country applying to join itself, it would be rejected on the grounds of being insufficiently democratic. Look at the EU Commission. It's the EU's government as well as its legislative body. There's no separation whatsoever. Imagine the Obama White House writing a law to ban all guns and then passing it with virtually no input from Congress. That's practically how the EU operates. That's not a democratic institution. That's a tyranny. Why would we want to be part of an institution that's inherently anti-democratic? An institution that seeks to regulate and control every aspect of human behaviour. A complete insult to British common law, which holds that freedoms that are not explicitly prohibited are implicitly allowed. An institution whose Euro judges have declared that their decisions take precedence over national constitutions and parliaments. Do you want to live in a democracy or a technocracy? Do you want to have the power to remove the people that govern you, or be at the whim of bureaucrats who you didn't even elect, being ruled by people whose names you don't even know?
Do you recognise this man?
No.
Do you recognise that man?
No.
I challenge you to name almost any of them.
We sacrificed our democracy, our sovereignty, in return for promises of peace and prosperity. And this is what we got in return. MEPs who we don't even vote for. They're completely ceremonial. They have no power. The EU Parliament can't even propose or repeal laws. It's all done by unelected commissioners who scheme behind the scenes with lobbyists.
Parliamentary democracy, once every 5 years, you can throw everything out of the window and start again. With this,
Once something is European law, there is nothing through a democratic process the voter can do to change it.
The people whom we elect to go to Brussels have almost no power at all. They do what they're told.
Got even less power than the House of Lords, for goodness sake.
Our votes for these people are pointless. They are fundamentally